One thing that happens quite often is that people run into problems getting these iPad minis and iPads to stay closed. I do maintain that if there's nothing pushing up on the glass and your corners are bent to where there's nothing putting pressure on it, I don't think you're going to have that problem. But one of the things that happens is this little cable right here, if you don't get it folded just right, it pushes up on the bottom. And for a number of other reasons, we've found that people do have trouble getting these things to stay closed. And that's going to be even more difficult if you want to do something like put some weight on top of it or clamp around the edges if you have a customer who's in a hurry to get their device back, or maybe you're sending it through the mail and you need the turnaround to be really fast. So what I'm going to do, I'm not too concerned about how clean this works. This is a training device that we use to show people how to take these things apart and put them back together. You can see I put some double-sided adhesive on here. I didn't use the pre-cut template on this one because we redo these over and over. Anyways, long story short, let's throw this tablet into a vacuum bag, seal it up, and see how that does for holding this thing. Because I've heard people talk about this a lot, but I've never tried it myself. All right, let's bag this thing up, and we'll hopefully, might as well wipe it down, just because it looks terrible on camera this way. All right, so again, not too worried about how clean this particular device works, but the question is, if we leave enough room to tear the bag right down here, can we get it into this thing, seal it up, and use that to make this sucker bond so we don't have to worry about it. Got a leak. So this thing is kind of sensitive as far as how you get everything into position. Make sure you lock down both sides. You should hear a click like that. Try it again. There we go. All right, so here's our nice sealed iPad mini. Heck, I might start shipping these things this way. That way it can kind of cure the adhesive and you don't have to wait around for 24 hours. You can send it off to your customer, and when they get it, they just grab this tab, tear that open, and it should be all stuck together. So come back and take a look at that in 24 hours. All right, let's see how our iPad mini turned out. Now, one thing about this that I noticed, and I unfortunately didn't catch on the camera, is that when I shrunk this thing, I set it on automatic and it went super vacuum seal on this thing, and it ended up pushing down on the power button. So that's one thing that we'll have to take into consideration later on. That power button is actually pushed in permanently, so we'll want to put a spacer or something, I think, up there in the future if we choose to do this again. The other thing is that the screen itself kind of looked cloudy. It was really strange. I hadn't seen that before, and this is a good LCD, or at least it was, unless I damaged it. So let's find out what happened here. Now you will notice the home button is sunk in a little bit, but that is because this has been taken apart many times, and I don't believe that the vacuum seal has anything to do with that. Yeah, it's actually, you can actually see maybe that was down on there pretty tight. So I hope that I didn't damage the LCD and that it will lift back up into the correct position over time, because we don't want to have that little puddle effect going on there. But more importantly is, will it power up? And the answer is yes. But you can see we've got kind of some dark spots around the edges here. So I'm not sure why that happened, except that maybe I put too much vacuum seal on this. So next time I will definitely use the inching feature and see if that makes any difference or not. The home button feels fine, feels like it's working, but we do have some discoloration of the LCD, which is really a surprise. I didn't think that was going to be an issue here. Now that little puddle in the center, obviously another potential problem. I will say it does look like this thing is stuck down pretty well. So more than likely I just need to use slightly less vacuum. I will repeat this experiment later on, but right now I'm in an area that may have to evacuate soon because of an impending fire and smoke. So I wanted to make sure I got this up today. I do not know if I'll be able to publish anything until I'm not sure when. So hopefully I won't have to pick up and leave. All right, as I started to walk away here, I noticed that discoloration on the sides that I had mentioned, it looks like it's starting to fade. So you don't see it as heavily up here anymore. There's a little bit of a spot down here and down on the bottom left corner, but it looks like that problem with the LCD, if you want to call it that I had when I first opened this, went away. Home button, or excuse me, power button is functioning still, and I am waiting to see if this does lift up eventually back into position, because we don't, this isn't going to affect the performance, but you don't really want this to be pushing down right against the LCD. So I'll leave this sitting for a while and see if that doesn't remedy over time. So you can see it doesn't really affect the image, but that's not something we generally want, pressure marks like that. I'll be back. All right, so this thing's been sitting here for about 5-10 minutes, and a lot of that discoloration in the center because of the pressure has gone away. And I think maybe if I left it for a while, it might remedy itself. But I wonder if we just put a little suction on this thing and lifted it, if that might not correct the problem. Which again, I don't expect would happen if you use the manual setting for the vacuum sealer. So obviously I don't want to pull my screen off. I just want to very gently lift in the center, because I believe that the suction on the inside there may have caused this thing to warp a bit. So let's see if that makes a difference. Yeah, so I think all it was is it was kind of stuck down there, and we don't see that pressure mark in the center anymore. The discoloration has gone away from the edges completely. I don't know where that came from. Obviously something to do with the vacuum seal. But we've got a power button, we've got a home button, and it looks like everything's working here the way that it should be. All right, so I think that using the vacuum sealer to hold this down, I mean, it looks like the adhesive held really well, and I'll check back on this later on. In fact, next week on the live stream. Oh, that's interesting. You can kind of see it reappearing over here now. Huh. I may have permanently bent this glass. What might have happened. Yeah, I think I just had a little too much vacuum seal on this thing. Otherwise, I'm confident that using this to hold the adhesive down would be a good idea. And in fact, when we have phones that have to be shipped out right away and we don't get a chance to put any pressure down or clamp it or anything, that this would be a good option. Well, this tablet turned out looking okay. It did seal the edges, and all that discoloration, whatever that was around the sides of the LCD, are gone. And we don't have a depression here in the center that makes the display look like there's a puddle inside. But if you want to avoid the complications that I'd experienced, here's what I would recommend you do. First of all, we don't need this thing to turn on while we have it in the vacuum pack. So I am going to put a spacer right above the top here. Let me grab a piece of tape. And just about anything will work here. What I want to do is make sure that when the bag sucks up to the top here, that it's not going to be putting pressure on the home button. So I'm just going to put a very small piece of a pencil that I kind of cut to size right here. And you'll have to, of course, take your time and make sure that that goes right up against the top. And then I'm going to take something roughly the same size as the display. In this case, a DVD actually works perfectly. And we'll insert these inside along with the tablet into the vacuum chamber. That way, when this thing pulls down, it should not have enough pressure. And I can probably put this a little closer to the power button. That way we'll have a bit of a gap there. And then, of course, we'll have the pressure pushing down on the outer glass more evenly, and that should avoid that thing pulling down into the center. Probably should have the pencil a little closer. I'm going to move this over a bit. thing in here, just like that. Clamp it down. All right, well, it takes a little practice to get that going, but I'm pretty confident here. We've actually got a bit of airspace inside, but you can feel that this thing is being held down on top of the tablet, so that should be enough force. You know, similar to having clamps on here, of course. What that doesn't solve is that we don't really want to mail off some random DVD to a customer, so if this were going in the mail, I'd find some other rigid material to put on top there to hold this thing down. But the real question, of course, is did we turn the tablet on, and did this cause us to end up with any more clouds on the LCD? So let's open this up and take a look here. So when it comes time to get it out of the bag, doesn't look like we've created any cloud problems on the inside, and also we did not turn the device on, so we should be good there as is. And I'll just come up with something else other than a DVD cover that's about the same size to put on this in the future, and that should do the trick. So let's plug it in and hit the power button. And does it come on? All right, so we got some lights flashing on the front there. It says inching. By the way, inching is so that you can manually adjust the vacuum on this thing. So if you have something you don't want to smash, like a soft produce or anything like that, you can do it manually. So I'm going to try this. I don't know if it's going to work because I'm not even sure I set it up correctly. So this is right out of the box. And of course, you know the problem nowadays is that for whatever reason, produce doesn't last very long. I don't know if it's too many GMOs or not enough GMOs, or maybe everything's organic. Whatever it is, you buy this stuff and it lasts for a day and then it goes bad. It doesn't matter where I'm at, what store I go to. So it would be nice to have this stuff last a little longer. So if I understand this correctly, I would assume the top of the bag has to be even with this area here, because that's where the vacuum is going to take place, right? You'd think. And then the seal's got to be on this front portion here. And I don't know if it matters. The bag's actually textured on one side. I don't know if that makes a difference or not. So I'm going to try it this way. I'm just going to take a shot at it and I'll edit this out if it doesn't work. So anyways, lay this thing down on there. Close this up. And then for inching, I guess we can test it right now. Just hit this. And I know you can't see the bag. Let's readjust this so it's actually in view. As I'm pushing on this, you can kind of see the air being sucked out of the bag. It's probably not very clear because it's kind of vibrating. So that allows you to manually take the air out of the bag. So I'm just going to hit the vacuum seal and see if this thing will seal it up automatically. Yeah. It's not doing much of anything, or does it just take a while? Well, I guess I didn't lock it down all the way. There we go. All right. Is that it? I don't know if this is done or what. Oh, it says sealing, I guess. All right. Now, I just didn't lock it down all the way. It looked like that's what happened. All right, so there you go. Look at that. And this is supposed to last for how long? Let me look at this manual. So if you have vegetables or fruits, vegetables and fruits will last 3 to 5 days without vacuum, 12 to 20 days. So this is supposed to be good for a couple weeks, like that. So if you don't want to eat back-to-back asparagus, you just save the rest for later. Well, one thing I overlooked is that you probably want to leave some space at the bottom of the bag. There's a little pull tab here. It's kind of ready for you to rip it open, but that's obviously going to be a little more difficult with all this stuff in the way. So, like I said, I'm an amateur, but next time I'll know. Leave yourself some room in the bottom of the bag there so you can just tear that off when you're done. If you found the video helpful, like it, share it, check out my channel for more tutorials and product reviews, and most of all, remember to hit the subscribe button. Feel free to leave your feedback in the comments section, and thanks for watching.